So, I'd like to introduce another presenter, Juraj Bednar. Most of you certainly know him. He's an active member of Progress Bar. He will have a very interesting presentation about digital, virtual, completely distributed currency, new currency called Bitcoin. So, that's all. Enjoy the presentation.
Okay, so thank you for seeing my presentation. I will talk about Bitcoin, which is a decentralized currency or virtual commodity. It tries to fix some of the current money system and many money transfer problems. I will first. First, I will say why I'm interested in Bitcoin. I'm interested in self-regulating systems, like in the evolution. Evolution of biological species has no central authority. It's a system that is self-regulated, and I like to explore such systems. And another system like this is economy, which for which markets do the same thing. They kind of control the flow of value, but they are also regulating themselves. They don't need central authority to regulate the trade. Okay, so sometimes we see that when central banks try to regulate and fix some of the problems of markets, they usually trigger a reaction from the market, which retaliate on the regulation and usually make things much worse than it was before. It doesn't happen all the time, probably, but we've seen it. Dot-com bubble, low interest rates, current financial crisis with some other problems together. So this was this is one of the things why I like to think about decentralized currencies. I will first tell something about money, which are tokens of exchange. We use commodities like precious metals that have some value of their own, started this way. And then there are fiat currencies like US dollar, euro, and all the others that are somehow guaranteed by state, and the value is defined by the market, the usability. So the value of the currency is represented by what you can buy with this currency. So if you have a paper with 100 euro, say 100 euro, and you couldn't buy your food, it's worthless. There's no value. So they're guaranteed by state. The state usually requires you to pay taxes in this currency, and when you try to recover your debt in court, this is the currency that the court will state they have to use to pay it back. So this is fiat currencies. What do we use money for? We use it as a medium of exchange because we don't want to barter in a very complex network. We want some representation of value, so we can exchange this representation for things we need in life. We use it to store value in time. For example, I want to buy something in 10 years. I'm trying to collect some value and use it later to buy something else. It's a unit of account, probably from Wikipedia, token of status and reputation, and it's a metric or measure in some way value. You know that you most probably cannot easily create new gold out of thin air, so it has to be mined or recycled or anything, but you cannot just simply create a lot of new gold. So that's why the supply of commodities is limited. Commodities are predictable. We have good estimate how much gold is in this planet, or how much coal or stuff like that. It is anonymous. When you trade gold hand to hand, you don't need any proof of the transaction or any log of the transaction. This is also possible with fiat money. When you trade like cash, you just go to a drugstore and buy something, or groceries and so on. So this is the problem with electronic money, is that this doesn't apply to internet trade right now. So there are lots of transactions by credit cards, wire transfers, and so on. The other problem with fiat money is regulations. So they kind of try to tell you what you can do with your money and what you can't. The commodities are less flexible. You can't create them, you can't do various regulatory stuff with them, like print new and so on. Some value is guaranteed. When you have gold, you at least can use it to create something new. It's a physical thing you can use, and it has value of its own. When you have a paper of 100 euros and euros are no longer valid, yeah, you can probably snort cocaine through it, but that's not much use of that piece of paper. So commodities have some inherent value. You can use it somehow. And we have seen that central banks usually do more harm than good in the long term by regulations, and it is very difficult to regulate supply of commodities. So what is wrong with our current money? There is the issue of control. There are few companies that control credit card payments, and they can tell you what you can and what you can't buy with your money. Many of us have heard about the problems of WikiLeaks accepting donations, and Visa and MasterCard refuse to accept donations, but it's not the only case. For example, you can't buy pornography with American Express. So they really try to tell how you can use your money, how you can transfer your money. They try to control the issue, the supply of money, and they monitor it, of course. There is very little known mandatory fraud insurance. When you pay with your credit card, there are fees, and they try to cover the risk of fraud, because usually the bank or the credit card company tries to say that they are responsible or they cover fraud. Of course, they are not paying it out of their own pockets, so they charge these transaction fees, which are from one part used as a fraud insurance, and there are other transaction fees because they wouldn't be doing this for free. So these are a few problems. Of course, in addition to anonymity, I already told you about. Bitcoin is not the first alternative currency. Many of you probably know LED systems, which are kind of local currencies. There is Hawala, which is not a currency but a money transfer system used in Middle East and also parts of Europe and so on, which is kind of peer-to-peer based. Maybe some of you know more about it than me. It's not based on internet, it's based on mutual trust of people participating in it. Maybe some of you remember eGold. eGold was a virtualized gold commodity. So you could buy gold with money. It was stored, it was physical metal stored for you somewhere, and you could send it, or the right or the ownership of the gold to other people. So it was an alternative currency which value of it was determined in weight of gold you own. After intervention from the United States government, it's now more or less unusable. They tried to regulate it, they went after the exchangers, and now it's completely unusable for anything real. A recent case with Liberty Reserve costs maybe tripling the price of bitcoins over the last few weeks. The Costa Rican government decided to regulate the field, and Liberty Reserve is based in Costa Rica, so they basically said you have to scan and send us photocopies of your passport to continue using your own money. So people panicked and they started to sell Liberty Reserve, and lots of them transferred it for Bitcoin. So this cost Bitcoin to increase the price from $30 cents for one Bitcoin to $1 approximately. So it reached $30. So Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer cryptocurrency. It relies on strong cryptography. It uses ECC public key cryptography for signing of transactions, and pretty interesting of use of hashes inspired by Hashcash. There is no central point at all. There is no central database of users. It's completely peer-to-peer. The rules how the system works are known in advance, and if you change them, the other peers in the network don't accept your transactions, because every node verifies everything that happens in the network. So it is not possible to create new bitcoins out of the rules that were set in advance, and there are no. I will tell you about it. So basically, imagine, doesn't matter right now what kind of information or data structure the Bitcoin is, but suppose you have it and you want to send it to someone. When you have the private key to that Bitcoin, you can sign a transaction and broadcast it to the network. I'm sending money to this other public key. So you just do it, broadcast it to everyone. The problem is that you can of course create two signatures, like I send it to you and to you, and it would create two bitcoins from one, which is probably not good for a financial system or virtual money. So the transaction history is kept in the network, again not a central place in the network, and it provides a backtrack of which coins have been used in the past, and they then can't be used again. It's very computationally difficult problem to alter the transaction history, because it's chained using hashes, and when there are blocks of transactions, when you want to change, I don't know, transaction from last day, it would mean you would have to generate many hashes, which is currently very problematic. I can talk about security later. I'm not sure how many of you would understand the math, so we can talk about it later. Okay. Yeah, you can of course fork the network, create your own software, and then new rules would apply. So it's open source software. You can even use it to create your own virtual currency. The supply consists of, or the setup, the rules consist of inflation period, when computers are doing these hard computations that are required for the system to work, to produce new bitcoins. They are awarded to the users of the network in some specific way.
So basically the price of the value of the money is backed up by CPU usage, right?
No,
Okay.
it's not backed up by the CPU usage, but it's made hard by the CPU usage. So the CPU usage is required for the transaction history to be strongly protected, so you couldn't change it. And yeah, this is a reward for doing that,
Okay.
but it's not a backing of the value. The value, I will talk about the value later. Then there will be the period where there will be 21 million bitcoins. Million or billion? Yeah, probably million. And the supply will stop. So that's the time there will be no new bitcoins, and you would need to trade them to get them, buy them for something. The features, it's completely peer-to-peer, so it's very difficult to block. Again, all rules are embedded in code, and there is no identity tracking. You don't create login and password. There is no direct binding between identity and the coins. On the other hand, the transaction history is public, which says this public key sent this many bitcoins to this other public key. You can have as many public keys as you want. Actually, it is suggested that you use new key pair or new account for each transaction. So it is not directly tied to your identity, but of course we have seen de-anonymization attacks on Facebook and so on, so I believe most of them apply also to this network. So what you have to keep in mind especially is when you have let's say 50 and 50 bitcoins on one account and you want to send someone 90 bitcoins, you need to combine the money. So you will have a transaction that comes from two accounts to another account, and these two accounts can be tied to you because you sign them both, so in one transaction. So this is possible, and it's very well documented, and people should be aware that this is happening. There is a site called blockexplorer.com when you can browse the transaction history, and you can actually extract very nice statistics about the network. Okay, I found one guy that actually, I found out that he lives in Bratislava, he couldn't come, that created a mixer. It's called Bitcoin Laundry. The guy is called Michael Gulski, and he is anarcho-liberal. He moved away or escaped from United States to live in Bratislava. How cool is it? So he created this Bitcoin Laundry where you can mask the transaction when you want to send money to someone and someone else wants to send money. You exchange the transactions so they can be tracked together. Of course, you can trade virgin coins. These are created by using the CPU power, and they have no transaction history, so you can maybe buy 49 bitcoins for 50. It works with Tor out of the box. There are even seed nodes in .onion network, so you can use it only in the Tor network, and as long as the Tor network works, it is very difficult to block this. That's a nice feature. Okay, so what can we use it? Of course, trade. We can buy coffee, computers, or electronics, cloud services, drugs. All kinds of weird drugs are traded on the .onion part of the hidden internet. You can trade it for other currencies. There are maybe 10 sites that sell and buy Bitcoins, so you can definitely do it. And you can use it to send some value to someone else. Okay, so this is the value of Bitcoins versus US dollar. This is when the Liberty Reserve announced that they will be requiring identities of everyone using Liberty Reserve. This is article about Bitcoin on Slashdot. And this is just creation. So, as you can see, you cannot easily predict the future value of Bitcoin. Jumping 3 times in, I don't know, few months, it's probably very slow market, so it's not like that there is no one taking care of the value, so it's completely determined by market, and when something significant like a Slashdot article or some regulations happen on market, it is reflected in price. Some statistics, it is very difficult to say how many people actually use it because there are anonymous accounts, but there are 5,000 to 10,000 Bitcoin clients connected to the network, probably. As I said, it's peer-to-peer, so this number is more a scientific guess than a real number, but it's from a developer of Bitcoin. The transactions are circa valued 20,000 euros a day, which is pretty much, and I was surprised. There's so much trade going on. Okay, about the mining, that was your question. It's similar to mining maybe gold. Everyone can do it. I know some people who go out and try to mine gold on the rivers and so on, but it is not easy. So if you think that you can just run one computer and it will generate a lot of Bitcoins in 2 days, that's not possible. Actually, the value of electricity you need to mine, the electricity is much more expensive in most parts of the world than the Bitcoins you get for mining. So I don't say don't do it. Everyone wants to try something, but if you have this idea that you are going to buy a big Amazon cloud and you will mine Bitcoins, it's not a good idea. Unless you have a lot of money to give to Amazon. The rate is known. Currently it's 50 Bitcoins every 10 minutes with our mined. So the more people that are coming to the network, the chance that they will find the 50 Bitcoin block is very low, and it is getting lower. There is probably no other known way to issue peer-to-peer currency, because all the other ways expect some kind of central exchange or something like that. So many people don't like Bitcoin because of the mining process, but yeah, if you know any other way to create complete peer-to-peer currency, let us know. I'll be very interested, but I don't think it's possible. And again, the mining is required for the network to be secure. It's something that Bitcoin needs to work. So people are at least somehow rewarded for the network to run. You can use Bitcoin Faucet, which is a site that will give you very little Bitcoins for free, so you can play with it. You can buy it using currency exchanges. This one. There is a cooperative mining project in Czech Republic that is called mining.bitcoin.cz. So if you want to play with your GPU or CPU and try to mine some Bitcoins, this is better way than doing it yourself, because the chance of you yourself finding the block is very low. So they split the block over 50 Bitcoins according to how much CPU or GPU power you donated. There is a trade page on Bitcoin Wiki which lists various shops that accept Bitcoin, exchange them, something. Okay, I mentioned Bitcoin laundering. We are thinking with one of our other members to create a paper Bitcoins, which would mean you could use a piece of paper like a scratchable lottery ticket, so the private key would be hidden behind the scratchable area, and you could trade it like normal paper money, and when you need to send it or to use it or to exchange it, you could scratch down the part, scan a QR code, get a private key, and then you could use it to send it somewhere. So this could be fun, and changing papers creates no transaction history. So maybe that would add to the value of Bitcoins.
Is this even legal? To have some
I'll get to that. I'll get to that. Yes. Yeah, we would like to start some trade, and there are projects about tooling. So there are sites like that look like PayPal, and they're just backed by Bitcoins, and you don't have to run the Fed client, and you can use it on the web. So if you trust those people, you can definitely do it.
What you call tooling is
It's
manufacture
tools.
credit cards? Or?
No. It's like tools to make it easier, APIs and so on. So. Okay, there are some mysteries, and one of those is your question. The first mystery is who wrote it. When you download the first paper, they say it's written by Satoshi Nakamoto. And there is so little known about this guy that we don't even know if he's really from Japan. It's most probably not his real name. He started to write from anonymous email accounts, and there is no mention about this guy from before the Bitcoin project. So it's most certainly some fake identity just for this project. The question is if we can trust him, and there are lots of people who actually asked this question, and they even did something better. They looked at the code and tried to document some possible problems and so on. We know something about these guys or people or something views, so we can find out something more. The paper and the code is pretty solid, and if he would have published it under his real name, it would probably have earned him a PhD or her. This is the text from the first block of transaction history, which probably means that this guy was not happy about this news in the Times from January 2009. So That's one thing, and this is something he wrote. He says that we will probably not find a solution to political problems only in cryptography, but we can win a major battle in the arms race and gain a new territory of freedom for several years, which is nice, if that's true. He says that it's quite easy to cut off heads of centrally controlled networks like Napster, but completely peer-to-peer networks are much harder. So we have seen this with Liberty Reserve. And he says that it's very attractive to the libertarian viewpoint if you can explain it, but he says that he's better with code than words. I think this is probably saying I'm fearing stylometry attacks, so I will write only code, which are more difficult to analyze. Is it legal? Well, the first question is if it does really matter if it's legal. Like we all download some stuff we should not download. And
Well,
you
that's not illegal.
very
I don't know about Slovakia, but the Czech Republic is completely legal to download. What's illegal is uploading.
okay.
It's only numbers.
Yes. Yes, and bitcoins are also only numbers.
It's just ones and zeros.
So it is very difficult to block it. So it's just the case that if they can actually enforce something regarding Bitcoin. Actually, virtual commodities are okay in most countries. People can't forbid you to trade your gold with someone. So as long as you don't call it money and you call it nice cryptographic hashes with 16 bits of zeros and in the end which are pretty and you are willing to buy it, so and trade it, it's fine. Collectibles, yeah. But the government the governments of the world will probably not like it because it's quite difficult to enforce taxation and financing of crimes and so on. And actually, a lot of stuff like this is going on in the network. When you see the hidden pages in .onion, like you can see really weird stuff like weapons trade, drugs trade, everything they don't like. So the question is if the good sides outweigh the bad and if it's worth fighting for. I don't know yet. Is it safe? I should have put does it matter there also. The cryptography is pretty solid to my knowledge. I studied the paper and it looks good to me. The problem could be that the value is determined by the market only. I'm not talking about some mysterious investment and forex trading, big corporations and so on. The question is, would you like to earn money in bitcoins or not? Like, is it of some use? Could you buy groceries? Would you want to sell your house for that currency and use it again? That's the question of the market determined value. We have seen cases when markets were doing some pretty scary things in countries. So fiat currencies are not immune to the problems or the risk of market value anyway. And we have seen Zimbabwe and various other examples of hyperinflation caused by very bad regulations. What are the rules embedded in the code? I said that the first part is inflation. The money supply is created at a pre-specified rate and it converges to 21 million over time. the growth is decreasing. So in 2 years it will be only 25 bitcoins for each block, and then it will be half and so on, and it converges to 21 million. So
Is it possible to own all the money?
someone owns it, yeah.
So you can buy it.
So if I can afford to buy all the money, I can have it.
Yes, you can, but they are not created yet, all of them. So then there will be no new supply of bitcoins. Inflation and deflation that is expected is reflected in the price of money. So the worst kind of inflation and deflation is the one that is created by the central banks, and markets don't expect them. Because when you know that inflation will be 10%, you can count with it. You know that this money will be worth 90% next year. So you know the value of the money. That is also the case of the deflation. So the biggest problem is when you don't know what is going to happen, and we know because the rules are in the code. Okay. Some people are afraid of deflation, so you can read this on Wikipedia about the period of the Great Sack, which was deflation in the United States, was the time with very, very high increase of the gross domestic product and prosperity. So I'm just saying that deflation is not always bad, and actually this example shows that it was really, really good for the country and contributed to the Industrial Revolution. And this is my email address if you have any questions and are afraid to ask now, which you can of course do.
About the mining, or generally, you have this sort of wallet of all your bitcoins, which is some file. If you lose that file, you lose those bitcoins, or so it can't be replayed from the transaction history.
No, because the wallet holds private keys. But what you can do, what the Bitcoin client actually does anyway, is it creates the key pairs in advance. I think the default configuration is 100 key pairs. So if you just run the client and back up your wallet, and then you get bitcoins to those 100 addresses, then you have the private key, and yeah, it will be replayed from transaction history, and then you could use it. So you don't need to have
After each transaction.
Yeah, no, just when creating new addresses, and you can configure how many. By the way, the creation of accounts is not broadcasted to the network. It's an operation of creating the keys and storing them.
Is it, if it's so easy to have a spike in the price versus the dollar, we're just having a Slashdot article, how easy is it to game the whole currency all the time?
Well, it's easy to game British pound, so I believe there's some small market of bitcoins.
And
it's very easy to.
The other thing is you have only 21 million coins, but there's the possibility of fork the network if you fake one, double spending and such things, create another network. And what if people agree on, okay, let's use that also, and then you have two networks. One will have 21 million, the other one will share some part of their own.
If they do it, they shoot themselves in their own feet, because instantly the value of the bitcoins would be worth probably less than half of the original. So
yes, but if
I wouldn't do it.
If you know that
you
you have 21 million bitcoins and you have 6 billion people, so not everyone could theoretically own one, even.
They can, because it's dividable to very low. You can have 10 to minus. I don't know.
I think it has like 8 the symbols after.
There is one rule. Bigger Bitcoin network is more. It means that there is also more secure and also more stable. So if you decide to create alternative Bitcoin network, it's really likely that your network will be quite insecure and quite easy to overtake.
No, the security is in the numbers of users.
Yeah.
If there are 5 users you can take over it now.
No,
When there are
just start a
10,000
Facebook group and you have 1 million users.
Yeah.
Say, okay, let's vote Bitcoin. What do you do then?
I'm looking forward to this to see what happens.
But I think it's the same like starting a Facebook group and saying let's use dollar instead of euro. It's, yeah, you know, it's a completely different currency.
Well, we could avoid another bailout then with that.
What about
Yes.
the definition? The pair of keys is was, then the coin is actually was, so the final
Yes.
number in reality will be lower than
Yes,
than
that's
the-
why I call it deflation and not stagnation, because there will be less supply, because people will lose their wallets, and yeah, that will happen.
And if a coin is lost, can I mine it again?
No,
No, because it was already published.
no, can't.
So what about the deflation? And it's not a problem? Or?
Yeah, I said when it's expected, it's reflected in the market value, so I don't think it's a problem.
Yes, but you had big jumps in the value of the Bitcoin, so when you have large deflation or large inflation, even if it's expected, well, you cannot always expect it. You have those jumps which
Yeah.
were not expected.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the same
That's-
thing happens when someone takes control over government of Zimbabwe and you can't expect
It's probably
it.
inherent in every.
Yeah.
But was it a deflation of bitcoins or problems of dollars?
That was probably deflation.
Yeah, I'm talking about two
prosperity
things.
to dollars, so
What?
it's set how many dollars you can buy per bitcoins. But
And yes,
if you don't trade through dollars, you trade directly, maybe that's about the same
do you have
amount of
exchange rates to other currencies?
Yes, there are on the ntgox.com site. You can see them. It's also traded in hackerspaces for cash, so you can try that also. Yeah.
How many bitcoins are already traded?
In brown market.
There are 5 million bitcoins in circulation right now, and the value is about 20,000 euros per day traded. But you can send bitcoins to your own address, so that's very
But 5 million bitcoins are real traded or they are already mined?
traded. Oh, traded.
Traded. So
Yeah.
mined, they're like.
Sorry, 5 million bitcoins are in existence, they are mined, and the value of 20,000 euros per day is traded. You can see it in the transaction history.
If you have money, so we have $10,000, okay? But when this $10,000 circulate, with that you can actually make transaction worth, of say maybe $100,000, because money is going from one hand to the other, yeah? You understand what I mean?
No.
Okay, so say I have $5,
Yeah.
I go and buy the sandwich,
Yeah.
and the guy who have got it go and buy the something that, and the money is actually moving around, yeah?
Yes.
So
Okay.
they say $5 actually mediate transaction, which is worth say maybe one day $100, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
So what I'm asking you, so to what extent actually this is actually accepted, this in the actually real transactions actually? And do you have any estimation, or can make an estimation?
The circulation of the same money.
Because it depends on the speed of the circulation. I mean, anyway, what is the speed of the circulation of this money?
We don't know, because you don't know if it's circulating like
a fictitious one from one hand to the other, or you would really buy a single?
You actually when you have 100 bitcoins on your account and you want to send 50, you send the rest to your own account, and it is also a transaction. So we don't know what part of that amount is actually real trade and what part is just of how the system works. So it's very hard to tell.
But who actually trusts the money? If you go and actually, what you can buy for that?
Yeah, I said that in the beginning. Currently, cloud services, electronics, coffee, stuff.
They're small
You
shops?
can-
They're small because I live in the US. It was they had a currency in Ethiopia. Actually, this was an alternative currency. And so you went to the dentist or I don't know, many shops that accepted it.
Yeah.
And even if you could convert it to actually the dollar,
Yeah.
because you had the kind of market, local market,
Yeah.
which was used it. So, I mean, that's very important when really you can
Yeah,
use it.
you can also exchange it for the money, and there are the Bitcoin page lists a list of shops, so you can use it somewhere. Of course, you can't pay it with it in the
So
grocery
in the
store.
banks you can do it, or where you can exchange it for money actually?
There
If
are
you want to
independent exchangers. If I have some bitcoins and I want to sell them to you, we can make
Okay,
an
there are people
agreement.
who buy it for dollars or
Yes, also sell.
There was a link in the presentation. It
Yeah,
was empty
in the beginning.
in the MG box. Or
Empty box, but it's just. I suggest the trade page of bitcoin.org. It lists all the major currency exchanges.
But what it gives you us in the term of not only not money, but I mean in terms of agency or freedom, because when you talk about open software, so people cooperate and they get a value which is not always money, it's something else.
Yeah.
But what you get from this actually?
You can have an anonymous transaction, which is or more or less anonymous transaction, which I value, because I can buy stuff and not be traced. So I like this.
And you can cut the transaction costs.
Yeah, and blocked. So when something bad happens in your country, you can store value in a different way and use it, send it away, and
But what's
it's very
the
difficult.
card network? Is the card network?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what. I'm going to spread some ideas of these guys.
But do you
in
think
there.
that works? Because at the time of crisis, actually money becomes worthless, and only the government, who has big government, can actually just give some worth to money. For example, when the crisis go up, if the country's government hasn't has any financial backing, so that currency is not worth anything, and only actually government, like U.S. government, which have a lot of actually financial backing.
Depends.
Power.
If you have a hyperinflation, would you rather sell groceries for dollars that will be worthless tomorrow, or something else that doesn't have this problem?
Maybe.
Yeah.
It will be worthless too, but
Yeah.
Maybe, but maybe not. So.
After only it's the kind of barter,
Yeah.
If I have, say, okay, tomato, I don't sell it to dollar. Dollar is not worth. I just exchange it for cucumber.
Yeah, and you can use bitcoins as a store of value or representation of that value.
If you have all the cucumbers, then they become rare and they have more value than they have.
The idea in reaction to this question was that we should build
inflation through barter.
We should build
but if you just
connections to other countries, independent connections from the ISPs. That was the idea of this guy. Maybe you can tell something more about it.
I was just asking about like 20,000.
Could you please speak louder?
Yeah, it was like 20,000 euros transaction flow per day. But total number of bitcoins like 5 million. Someone has a really huge deposit of bitcoins, and if we start
they
using
probably
it,
do.
the value will be completely different.
Yeah, that's possible. I'm not saying that the value will be better
If
later.
bitcoins will like really spread, like worldwide, then we will wake up once and find out that someone is owning half of the world because you have some millions of bitcoins.
Today you wake up and
Okay.
is it different?
I would like to ask about the mining.
Yes.
If I understand right, the mining of the new Bitcoin is some very
CPU
so if I found a more effective algorithm to, for example, to create a Bitcoin, I think that is some kind of cryptographic public key. So if I found the more effective algorithms, I can mine all other Bitcoin which are not in.
Yeah, if you actually can do it, you would probably win a Nobel Prize anyway. So please do. But bitcoins are created in a predefined rate, so it's not possible to do more than currently 50 bitcoins per 10 minutes because these new blocks wouldn't be accepted by the network. So yeah, you can earn probably 50 bitcoins every 10 minutes now.
And
you have 2 years for that.
Actually, these Czech guys are not using CPUs but GPUs.
They are using also CPUs, but
GPUs are much faster in doing this calculation. So buy a good graphics.
The mining, like I will explain.
How much Bitcoin will mine for the price of?
The electricity is more expensive.
He suggested buying a graphics card which costs you 200 euros.
Okay. And last question.
Wouldn't buy that much Bitcoin.
What do you need to make a transaction? What is the actual information? So I'm thinking about a scenario that internet is shut down in one part of the world. So I have a shortwave radio, and I have somebody in the other part of the world where internet still works, or half of the internet still works. So I can call the guy, and what I have to say a hash, and that will say I transfer 50 euros.
Yeah, it's a hash and the target. It's a hash of the signature and the target Bitcoin and identification of the transaction.
And I have to say how much do I want to transfer.
Yes.
This is like three information.
Yeah, it can be more complex if you send from many accounts.
Yeah.
You need to group them first and then send it. So it's the blocks can be more complex, but it's definitely possible to do it over low bandwidth.
How long is this info? Like, what is a hash? How many characters?
160 bytes is hash of public key, which is your account number, which is like long.
So basically, it's less than an A4 paper.
Yeah.
It's SHA-2 actually.
No, it's RIPE MD from SHA-2. There are two hashes used.
Okay, thank you a lot to Uri for his great presentation about Bitcoins. We can go. The next presentation will be in 8 minutes, so...
Are you going to accept donations?
For progress. Yes.
Ale tam je algoritmus,